All right, so we just saw with the Philadelphia Eagles, especially how important the offensive line can be for a team. And with that, we're going to be talking about the trenches and the offensive line today. Two tackles, two guards, and a center to break down NFL free agency as we slowly get closer and closer to free agency with another rant video here. And again, before diving into it, I want to quickly say subscribe if you're new. It's greatly appreciated. Leave a like, the whole drill. And let's dive right into it. The first offensive lineman we'll be talking about, a left tackle specifically. Ronnie Stanley is a free agent from the Baltimore Ravens, and he is someone that, since he's entered the league, has been a very reliable left tackle for the Ravens, and all around has been a very reliable player. He's going to be entering his age 31 season next year, which kind of a little bit of a hesitation here for him. But at the end of the day, he's a reliable guy you can get. He's a reliable guy. For the left tackle position, he's expected to make a roughly 21 million a year for on a 2-year deal. And again, he's just really reliable. Again, he played in 98% of the snaps that Baltimore's offense had this year. And in that, he had 9 total penalties, 4 being holding, 3 being false start, and 2 being extra penalties that aren't specific offensive line stuff. But even with the penalties, it was kind of a career high in holding calls for him this year. But even with all that, he's still a reliable left tackle for a team to get. And again, entering age 31, he has a few years left in the tank probably. I think probably more than 2 years, but a 2-year deal is very respectable and a very nice deal for him to get. And it's weird because Baltimore's offensive line is an offensive line that could really use him back, and I would not be surprised if he is back in Baltimore. He's played his entire career in Baltimore up to this point, so I doubt he's going to leave now when it feels like they're so close to making a run at things. But at the same time, I mean, he's getting up there in age, getting up to the point of his career where he wants to get a ring. And I do feel like Baltimore is that spot for him to potentially get that ring at. So I would like his return there. Obviously, there's multiple teams that are going to be focused on offensive line this offseason, so it's going to be a very open market. And Ronnie Stanley is probably be one of the top end tackles for that market. Now move over to the opposite side of the offensive line. The other tackle we'll be talking about is Kendall Lamb. I need to talk about my Dolphins for this one because for as much as he hasn't really been doing a whole lot since entering the league in 2015 as an undrafted free agent, he was undrafted and is going to be entering his age 33 season. So who knows how much more he has left in the tank, but by all indications, he is going to be playing again next year. And with that comes a potential 1-year, $3 million deal that I would love if Miami can sign him to. Now, we did deal with injuries a bit last season, and also just Miami's weird offensive line rotation with Austin Jackson being the primary right tackle and Kendall Lamb being the backup. But he played 51% of the offensive snaps for Miami last season and is a reliable backup. Had no penalties against him last season and was really reliable for a Miami offense that really the offensive line was one of the issues last year on top of many other things, but he did his part in it regardless. Getting a reliable backup, maybe not one you want to play all 17 games, but when he's on the field, he's going to give you his best, and depending on what team that is, his best might just be enough until your main right tackle comes back. That's why a $3 million deal isn't that bad, and getting him for a 1-year deal as well. I could see him leave Miami, sadly, to go to a team that's looking to properly contend, as Miami's in this very weird spot this year, where they're going to be trying to contend, but who knows if they'll actually be able to. But at the end of the day, I would like to see him back in Miami. He's bounced around a bit in his career, but again, he's a reliable backup, and with how much of a glass foundation Miami's built on, I would like to have him back, even though he is also kind of a bit of a glass player. But also at the same time, the season he played the most amount of snaps in 2018, that was a season where he only had 4 penalties against him, and 3 of them were false starts. He has definitely lowered that amount of false starts since then, and again, hasn't really had a lot of holding penalties over the past few years. So I really like Kendall Lamb as a value backup tackle option. Now to move inside, we're going to be talking about some guards. And the first one is going to be Trey Smith, the big name guard for this free agency class. Going to be entering his age 26 season, his 5th year in the league next year, after being drafted in the 6th round by Kansas City a few years back. And again, he's the top named guard, it seems, for this class. A lot of people talking about where he can go and what kind of deal he can get. And the ideal is going to get something in the range of what Robert Hunt got last year, a 4-year deal worth roughly $20 million. And that could be and that's very likely, and I would not be surprised at all if he gets that big of a bag. It just means that it's going to be a lot on a guard position. But Trey Smith is one of those type of guards who is kind of worth it. Played 97% of the snaps for the Chiefs last year and drastically reduced the amount of holding calls he had from 2023. He had 7 that year, and this past year he only had 2 holding calls against him. Those were also his only 2 penalties. And with it, I do really like what Trey Smith can bring to a team as a physical option, that a physical guy who knows how to win. He was in KC beginning in 2021 and has seen 2 Super Bowls. He knows what that locker room has going for it. He knows what it takes to win. I would not be surprised if he's back in Kansas City, but that price tag might be a little bit too much, and we could see him going elsewhere. And a team that definitely does need interior offensive line help is the Miami Dolphins, but I feel like that contract is going to be too much for what the Dolphins cap space is. So I can see him moving on to a team like another team that needs interior offensive lineup. There's quite a few out there. Zach Martin just retired, so I can see the Cowboys being in the mix for this. I can see the Jets being in the mix for this. I can see the Patriots being in the mix for this. He's going to have a big market for him, and there's a chance that through that big market, he surpasses the expected $20 million a year option, $20 million a year value. And he gets up closer to 22 and a half, maybe even 23, just because when there's a bidding war, it's going to inflate the price a little bit. But I do like Trey Smith, all things considered. Now, from one player who played in the Super Bowl to another, Mekhi Becton is a scheduled free agent this year from the Philadelphia Eagles and going to be entering his age 26 season by the time the season rolls around and his 6th year in the league. And he definitely found a turnaround in his career by leaving New York for Philadelphia. And he's expected to sign a 4-year, $40 million deal total. And that is a really damn good deal for him, considering what happened in New York with him. And I would not be surprised if Mekhi Becton sees a return to Philadelphia in some capacity. I really like what he was able to do there. He played 88% of the snaps and had very few calls against him, only 2 penalties total, one of them being holding. And for the most part, it was a very solid season for a team that won the Super Bowl. I would not be surprised if he runs it back in some capacity. And I would not be surprised if he takes a little bit of a team discount. And he has, again, the expected $10 million deal. I won't be surprised if it's closer to 9, maybe 8.5. And also, if he does leave Philly, I won't be surprised if it's closer to 11.5. He's a very solid player who's primarily plays tackle, but he moved inside a guard for this season. Even though on his Pro Football Reference, it still has him as a tackle, but he did move inside the guard. But in the end of the day, he's just a really reliable player who found a turnaround with him leaving New York and going to Philadelphia. So I could see him remaining in Philadelphia to keep that same energy and same mindset going. That he has success here. Let's run it back, get a second ring, and really prove that, hey, I was worth the first round pick the Jets took on me in 2020. So now moving inside once again to talk about the center position, going a little bit off the beaten path here, to be talking about Josh Myers from the Green Bay Packers entering his age 27 season. By the time season rolls around, his 5th year in the league, was a 2nd round pick by Green Bay back in 2021. And another case where he's a kind of a value option for a team looking for a center and looking to give a guy a real shot. That's not to say he didn't have it in Green Bay. He fully did. He played 99% of the snaps with the Packers. And 3 straight years, he's played damn near every single offensive snap. He played 99% last year, 99% in 23, and 100% in 22. And just all around, this dude's been a very reliable player for the Packers. Also doesn't get penalized a lot either. He had 2 penalties against him last year, none of them being anything offensive line specific. No holding, no false start. In 23, he had 4 penalties against him, 3 being holding, 1 being a false start. And in 22, he had 1 holding, 1 false start. But last year showed that he can be a very reliable center and a very reliable kind of utility guy. Pro Football Reference has him listed as just an offensive lineman, but he primarily does play center. And again, could be a good value option. He's expected to make roughly 7.7 a year on a 3-year deal. I would not be surprised if that gets rounded up to 8 or gets up to around 8.5. But nonetheless, this is a very good center option for a team that could be looking to bolster the interior offensive line with a guy who is going to be isn't going to cost that much money, so they can pair him with a Trey Smith and kind of use roughly $30 million a year to combine them and have them work together. And that's a very good option for a team to have. Really, this offensive line market in free agency and the draft class is a very good offensive line class to have and really good market to have. So a team like Miami, who is looking to really improve the offensive line, should not have any issue in doing so. The only issue would be, are they willing to put in the time to reach out to these players and really bring them into the building? But we'll see. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time. Let me know your thoughts down below. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.